with Drew. And we have another guest here. And so I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself, you guys. I know that you're like, oh my gosh, where's Cari? She isn't gone permanently, I promise. She'll be back. But she is gone this weekend for her anniversary, which is fabulous. And so she asked me to pinch hit for her this morning with her, with Haley on this call. So a little bit about me. My name is Becky Colburn. I'm in the sunny area of Naples, Florida right now. That's where I live. And I've been a real estate agent, business owner / whatever in real estate since 1997, but I've been a coach actively for the last 10 years. And I've built a few teams, and I've probably attracted about 700 or 800 agents in the last 10 years. And I was with Keller Williams until 2 weeks ago, and I moved over to EXP, and I am excited and ecstatic, and certainly am bursting with it. I'm so excited. And Cari and I have joined up, and we're going to do quite a few things together. I've known Cari for many, many years in the Keller Williams world. She told me she was going to EXP. I said, well, you go and let me know how it goes. And let's just say she's smarter than I am, because I should have come when she came, but I'm here now. But Haley, if you wouldn't mind going ahead and introducing our first guest.
Yeah, of course. Well, Drew, we are so excited to have you here again. I was telling Becky, every time I think about you and doing your mortgage update or your just your market update, I always think of it as 2 with Drew. I think it should be a podcast or something. Just keep that in mind for the future.
Well, Mark and I are venturing into the world of Instagram Reels, so maybe we'll keep something in mind on that for sure. But thank y'all so much for having me, Becky. Welcome aboard. Glad you made the switch over. You're partnered up with a great bunch of people, and certainly hope Cari is away enjoying her anniversary. It's good to turn this stuff off every now and then. And I will be brief because I know we got another guest, and I know it is a holiday week, so I just wanted to talk to y'all about 3 quick things. One, we've got our 3rd event coming up. If you're in the Charlotte area, we'd love to have you. We'll post the link to register. It's going to be about renovation lending. We're going to have the head of renovation lending for Movement be there with us, answer any and all questions, and help give you all some ideas for how you can institute this into your business to either help sell more homes or help buyers see that, hey, every home that we look at doesn't have to be the perfect house. We can finance some renovations in there for you. So I'll post that here just in a couple minutes in the chat. Last week was one of the few weeks that we can say in a long time where rate volatility was down. We kind of settled into this mid 6% range after we got the favorable CPI reading that came out. We've battled against some ceilings a couple times, and it hasn't broken through them. So hopefully we're going to hang out in this mid 6 range for the next couple of weeks. Typically with the holidays coming up, we shouldn't see anything too crazy over the next few weeks. The 2 dates to pay attention to are going to be December the 13th, which that is their next CPI report that will come out. The CPI report is really what we're driving inflation numbers. So that number came out lower than expected last month, which caused a nice drop in interest rates. And we're projecting that number to come in lower again in December, which should also cause a nice drop in mortgage rates. So we'll keep our eye on that. The Fed meeting is the day after. So that's on December 14th. So depending on some of that data that comes out of the CPI report, we could see the Fed market's currently pricing in 50 basis points. It has been 75 for the last 4 months at this point. So they are pricing in 50, which is good. That's a sign of slowing. And I'll be interested to see if we get that lower CPI report, if they maybe even talk about future rate hike projections and pausing for a couple of months and just letting these rate hikes take effect. So those are the 2 things we're watching over the next couple of weeks. And then the last thing I just wanted to hit on real quick, and Haley, if I can share my screen, let me see if I can. Awesome, I can. We're now offering a 3-2-1 buy down. So we've all talked about 2-1 and 1-0 buy downs in the marketplace right now. I wanted to share this calculator with you. And if you have any clients that are looking at this, or if you're working with any sellers that you're having a conversation about doing a price reduction for, reach out to us directly. I'd love to share some numbers on how this can actually be more impactful for buyers and your sellers if you're advertising a credit as opposed to doing a massive price reduction. these are just rates based off of today. If you look at a 3-2-1 buy down, that means that the buyer could get a rate as low as 3.5% today. I used a $450,000 purchase price and assumed a 10% down payment here. And you'll notice that that takes their payment to $1,818 a month. Where over here, I just used the same thing and did a $15,000 price reduction on that property. That payment is almost $1,000 more each month. So there's some really valuable ways that you can market these seller credits in the market right now to actually make your listings more appealing to buyers. And if you'd like to see a scenario or specific scenario for a seller or one of your buyers, reach out to us and we'd love to put together one of these for you.
So Drew, I'm sorry, I didn't unmute myself. Okay, call it the learning curve. I didn't unmute myself. I'm used to Cari being there. Here's the thing that I find so interesting that we're talking about. Like we've pivoted very quickly, right? In less than what, 6 months to now go from this amazing interest rate to now talking about a 3-2-1 buy down, right? So just kind of go through, if you wouldn't mind, with us, what is the best way for us to leverage this? Say we're representing a buyer, we've got a seller that's not giving away seller contribution, but we know that our buyer needs it. What is the best way for us to kind of introduce this conversation to our buyers? Should it be just handing them straight over to you, or can we get this calculation tool ourselves?
Since we're involved in interest rates and things like that here, we'd like to do that just for licensing purposes and compliance purposes for keeping that there. So we'd be happy to run it, mainly because each client we deal with, their interest rate is going to be different depending on the type of loan, credit, down payment, all those different things. And we're going to have all that information handy on being able to do that.
Right.
What I think isn't getting talked about enough with these buy down programs is I think people are a little apprehensive of them because they think, well, what if I refinance in the next 1 to 2 years? Is that money wasted? And it's not. So what happens is that money gets put into an escrow account. And let's say you do refinance 12 months from now. And let's say there's $10,000 left over in the buy down funds that were to be used. That's going to get applied directly to principal reduction on your refinance. So that money is not disappearing. It's not being wasted. It's not going anywhere. So it's actually one of the few ways that if you in agreement with us and you do think there's going to be an opportunity to refi in the next 12 to 24 months, you're actually, if you can get seller credit, you're actually going to be able to use some of that seller's money to pay down your loan in the future, which doesn't get to happen on any other transaction.
You know, what's really cool about that is that, I'm in a really, a luxury market here.
Yeah.
We see mostly luxury cash transactions, but what we have noticed, and I don't know, Randy can talk about this too, because he's in the luxury market. We've actually noticed that some folks are kind of switching up and not taking all their cash out. They are getting some financing and they are doing rate buy downs and different things like that. So this is really not just for your first time buyer or your first time move up buyer. This actually can be something that you offer as a tool for anyone in any price point, right?
It is. And Becky, I think what you hit on there is perfect. When you talk about luxury market, we're talking about people that are very smart with their money, right? That understand how to generate wealth and create that for their family. Guess what they're thinking as well is whenever this word recession finally gets hit and gets to be able to be used, they're going to see that as a buying opportunity in the stock market, right? So they don't want to necessarily have $3 million tied up in their home. If they can have half of that tied up in their home and half of that available to put into the market, they're probably looking at an opportunity to do that. So I know it's crazy to say, especially after the last 10 years in a low rate environment we've been in, but most financial professionals would tell you that anything under 7% as far as financing goes is a good opportunity for you to finance it and then have money available to put into other assets.
100%, because people who really know how to manage their money or how to leverage, I should say, their money, leverage cash, knows that cash is king. And during times like these, we have opportunity that's going to put themselves in front of us, and we want to have that cash on hand. So you can be that advisor, that local real estate advisor for your client in leveraging these types of tools.
Awesome. Mark and I have some great tools too, where we can run projections. We usually go very conservative on, hey, if you took some of your money and put it into your property, some of your money, put it into an investment account, and ran it at a 5 or 6% return, here's what your net worth looks like over 15 years compared to just dumping it all into your house. So we've loved showing that with clients. That's a big passion of ours, to make sure that the mortgage plays into your all your financial goals and isn't just a commodity like a lot of people treat it as.
I will tell you, if there's one thing I've learned from moving into a luxury market is that the power of understanding as a realtor how to have these conversations, not just with luxury and high net worth buyers and sellers, but with sellers and buyers that are very focused on their exit plan from their current position or job where they're at, right? And they can leverage real estate to do that. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Drew. Thanks for being on. Are there any questions for Drew in the chat box? Anything? If you've got a question, take yourself off mute. Drew would love to hear from you. No questions? All right, we're going to move on.
So Becky, just real quick, I wasn't going to ask, but I am. If you don't
Go
mind.
ahead, George. Yeah.
So, Drew,
Hey, George.
hi, buddy. Thanks for everything you share. I just want to get clarification on the 2-1 buy downs, interest rate buy downs. You are the third lender who has told me and my partner that any of that money that isn't used is refundable. Had one stand up at a realtor meeting last week and swore that is not true, that money goes away. Can you just reiterate on that just to drive it home?
That is incorrect information you got at your meeting. That money gets sent into an escrow account. It is held there. Essentially what the buy down is a prepayment of interest. So that money gets put into an escrow account each month as the buyer is making their lower payment. Some of that money is coming out of the escrow account to make up for the full payment. So when they go to refinance, they will actually have that money be directly applied towards principal. They won't get it back in the form of cash, but it will be directly applied towards their principal. That is a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac guideline. So that could just be a lender with overlays that's not allowing that. At Movement, we are a direct lender to Fannie and Freddie and are going strictly off of what they say as far as their guidelines.
Very good. I appreciate you clarifying that. That's the way I understood it. And this threw a curve to me, and several people have asked me about it since. So I'm glad we got to meet today. Thank you.
And I'm going to post that link for our event here in the chat in just a second. So if you're local to the Charlotte area, we'd love to see you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Drew. The chat box is updated with the event. And George, thank you for your question. And I'm going to move on to Haley. Haley, please introduce, if you would, our guest today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you again, Drew. We always appreciate you being here and continuing to keep us educated on the market and having these really important conversations with our clients. So Randy has joined us today. Randy, thank you so much for being here. Just a little background information on Randy. Randy oversees a team of 21 agents. It might be a little bit more now in New York City, and an expansion organization of over 1,100 agents, you guys, in 46 states and 7 countries. He's also been a real estate professional for almost 4 decades. So we're just excited for you to be here. Becky, I know you've got a couple of questions, and Randy will let you take it away.
Hi, well, thanks very much. I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you all. It's very nice of Cari, who's not here, but I hope she's having a great trip. And thank you for the introduction, Haley. So a couple of things. One, I have not been in real estate for 4 decades. I've been in the financial industry, whether it be, I spent 30 years on Wall Street before coming to real estate about 15 years ago. And I don't know if any of you guys are old enough to have seen the movie Trading Places with Eddie Murphy years ago, the people yelling and screaming on the trip. That was what I did for 30 years. And that was the greatest job that I ever thought that I could have. Maybe being a professional athlete would have been more fun, but I wasn't good enough to be a professional athlete. So trading on the floor was it for me. And it was my soul. It would really, and it hurt to lose it, but technology eliminated the need for guys yelling and screaming on the floor like that. 98% of the trading today is done electronically. We were middlemen and we got cut out. So I moved over to real estate. I had been a real estate investor, and I didn't want to work for a hedge fund. I was raising my daughter by myself at the time. So when you work for a hedge fund, you're going to be taking out clients all night long. And it's a lot of fun, but I had to be home for my little girl. So since I had been a real estate investor, and real estate was a market which was very similar to what I had done. And when I was on the floor, I wasn't a broker, I was a trader. So we traded my own capital. I had a team of traders, 5 other traders, all trading my own capital, which became very similar later on to running a team here in real estate. I worked initially for two companies. At the time, they were the two largest in New York City, Corcoran and Elliman. Elliman is an independent company. Corcoran is underneath the Realty umbrella. And then Keller Williams opened in New York City, and I had read the Red Book, and I thought it was the best book that I ever read on the systemization of running a business, of being a real estate agent. So I immediately went in, I spoke to the CEO at the time at Keller, and I basically joined on the spot. And I spent 6 years there, and I thought I was at the best model in the industry until I got a phone call from Dave Gagnon, who asked me if I'd be interested in having a conversation about EXP. And I said, "You're wasting your breath. I'm not going anywhere. I love it where I am. You're not going to offer me anything better than what I've got." And he said, "How about you give me 15 minutes? And if you want to hang up after that, you'll never hear from me again." And I thought it was a good way to get rid of him. So I said, "All right, go ahead. You got 15 minutes. And 15 minutes later, he must have had a timer on his desk, because he said, "Time's up. Do you want me to hang up?" And I said, "No, you can keep going." And an hour later, I was asking him, "How do I buy the franchise for New York City?" Because what he told me was, I had seen this movie before. I watched technology move into Wall Street, change everything, eliminate what I felt was the greatest career in the world. I got swallowed by that wave of technology, and I saw an opportunity to ride that wave with EXP. So we weren't open in New York City. I met with Jason Gessing and the rest of the C-suite in January of 2018. And I decided to come on board and help get New York City open. It took about a year and a half. And I could not do business in New York City during that period of time. I basically shut down my transactional business to come to EXP. But I knew that I believed so deeply that this was where the industry was heading, that I thought that a couple of steps back financially, and it was painful, would be worthwhile in the end. And it turned out it's the best move that I've ever made in my real estate career. So I have 16 agents on my team today. We did trim a little bit because the people just weren't producing. A couple of them left the industry. I think that's happening all across the United States, but that'll just be more business for the agents that can remain and survive, and then eventually thrive, as the agents that are left will do 100% of what will be more business in the future. So I run my team differently than many teams. I've looked at a couple of different models, and some very successful models are run very differently than how I run my team. I have a very low split. I've got a self-directed team, but there are some agents on my team who are standard team members. They pay a 25% split. But I have some agents on the team that they only pay a 10% split. And that's on deals that they bring to the table. Anything that's sourced by my team, it's a 50-50 split. But they can get to a 0% split by recruiting other agents. So for every FLQ that one of my team members has, they get a 1% reduction in that 90-10 split. So if they have 10 FLQs, they're 100% split on any deals that they bring to the table. So I'll be honest with you, that has not resulted in as much growth as I thought it was. And that's probably because, the number bandied about is that 88% of the company has never collected a revenue share check, right? Only 12% of the people participate in that. And that really, I'm offering what I believe is a really sweetheart deal to go do some recruiting. And it hasn't really turned the corner. I'm thinking about making some incentives with regard to new agents coming on board. If you're a capper, I'm considering bringing them on and capping them myself. After they cap with EXP on a 75-25 split, I'm going to cap them myself, so that they can go to a true 100% after they've capped out, doing about $50,000 worth of business. So that's where I'm leaning toward heading. We've had some turnover recently with regard to our staff. My VA, who had been with me for a couple of years, she decided to move to Canada, and she's going to school full-time to be a chef, and she's working full-time in Canada. She just doesn't have the bandwidth to remain my VA. So we brought in a new VA on this week, and we're heavily training with her, but I'm anxious to get back on the phone to begin recruiting, because this is basically hunting season. And especially with the slowdown that's occurred, I
Mhm.
believe that there's going to be a significant migration of agents toward companies like EXP and others that are similar to us, mostly toward EXP. But you know, if you look, just look at the numbers, an agent that is on a typical, in New York City, 60-40 split is a typical split. So if an agent did $200,000 worth of business, they paid $80,000 to their broker. If they would have come over here at EXP and lost 25% of their business, they still would get a raise from 120 to 134,000 in spite of losing 25%. And that's been a compelling conversation for people that I started touching on with just about a week ago. And I'm looking forward to having that conversation multiple times per day.
Randy, I have a quick question for you. Thank you so much for offering that. You just unpacked like a ton of great information. I want to go back and clarify a couple of things. First of all, please put your questions in the chat if you have them. We'll go through them, but I want to clarify one thing. So what you said in regards to your team is that you have a standard team, the self-organized team. They pay a $16,000 cap to EXP. They have the transaction fee, and you charge them 10%. Tell me about what their split is. Is that the one that's a 25% split, or is that 10% and 50%?
So it depends on where the deal is sourced from.
Okay.
If I source the deal myself through any lead generation activities that I pay for,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a 50-50 split.
Okay.
If they bring a deal to the table, whether it be their cousin or their friend, or they do some lead generation on their own, that's a 90-10 split.
Okay.
And there's a 1% bonus for every FLQ that they have at the time of closing.
Okay.
So if they've got 5 FLQs, it's a 95-5.
Got it. And that is if they pay a full, that's the self-organized team. Tell us about,
$16,000 cap for
Yep.
those agents. And then
okay.
there are a couple of agents on the team who opted, no, I want the half cap, so I'll pay you 25%.
Got it. Okay, great. So you basically have two teams running at the same time. You have the standard team, which is a 25% split, half cap, and then you have your self-organized team, which actually is kind of it allows them to be more of their own entrepreneur, grow their own business. Do they brand themselves, or are they branding under you?
Some do, some they don't. I don't need them to put Reis NYC team out with everything that they do. If they want to put it, great. If they want to just put their own name on it, that's fine too.
Okay. And the reason I'm asking this question, guys, is because if you go out and you are having conversations with the Randy Reises of the world, right? What you're going to find, and I know that John Dietz can speak to this as well, and some of you that are on here that have actually joined with Cari that may have run a traditional team before, what you're going to find is that you run into some challenges with the split. And what this does is this offers you a different option, right, Randy, to have them come in as a full cap. And yet, if you provide them with leads, they get a different percentage, and you are gaining the revenue share from that, right? Can you talk a little bit more about that, of how that is a great attraction strategy?
So, you know, there's so much flexibility built into the system because EXP compensates you for bringing them to the company, right? So I've got that revenue share that I'm going to receive from that agent, but even more so than that, if I've already built a downline, which I have over 1,000 agents, my surpassing the hurdles to get to 10 to 15 to 20 to 25 to 40 is even more important than the dollars that I'm going to receive from that agent. So I've been toying with the idea of bringing on cappers with no team split at all. First year, come in, it's 100% to you. You get to use all of my systems. I use a higher end CRM and website than KV Core. I use Sierra. You get to use that. You get access to my virtual assistant who do social media and marketing for you. Transaction coordinator is going to handle all of your paperwork. So you get to use all of that and avail yourself. I have a former production coach from Keller Williams who manages my team. He coaches about 5 times per week, different classes. So you get to use all of that for 100% split. I don't want anything in year 1. Year 2, you decide if you want to remain at a 25% split. But once they're in, they're not going to leave. And I'm getting the benefits of receiving revenue share from them anyway, and the benefits of potentially opening up lower levels of my downline.
I love that. I love that. That is fantastic. Okay. So the next question I have, when you talked a little bit about, and again, I think folks need to hear this when we're looking at attracting talent in terms of if we're going to attract a large team, or if we're going to attract a broker or someone like a Randy Reis, right? When you talked about you had to go backwards a little bit to go forward, talk about that, if you would, in terms of why did you have to go backwards? Why might someone else have to go backwards before they come over or before they go forward if they're entering into the EXP world?
Sure. So when we first came over, EXP was not open in New York City.
Mhm.
My business partner and I, there were two of us. We got licenses. I was licensed in New Jersey already. He got licensed in Connecticut. We moved our out-of-state licenses into EXP, and all was good. We weren't doing any business. I couldn't do business for EXP anyway, so at least I could continue doing business in New York City at Keller. We had a feeling that sooner or later Keller was going to find out, because at the time they were starting to really feel the pressure that EXP was putting on them, and we knew that sooner or later they were going to say, "Hey, what's going on here?" Right?
Yeah.
And so, but in May of 2018, policy was changed at EXP where you could not have a license, more than one license, one with a different broker.
Got
You
it.
either had to be all in or all out. And Vicky Bartholomew was the president at the time, and I asked her, I said, "Well, when will we be opening in New York City?" And she said, "I don't know when, I don't know if." And she said, "But you need to decide, do you want to all in or all out?" And I knew that there was no way in the world this company that thought or expected to be the largest brokerage on the planet was not going to be open in the biggest city in the United States.
Yeah.
So I said, "Look, we're all in." And my business partner looked at me like his eyes were popping out of his head. He thought I was crazy. But I just knew that this was where we needed to be. So so we came up, that was May of 2000. We closed up a shop in Keller in June. We had a couple of deals that were in process. And literally at the same time in June, we got called by the broker who said, "What's going on? You have licenses at EXP?" So it had become encumbered, and they were likely going to be able to say something to us to make a decision as well.
Got it. Yep.
And it took July of 2019 is when New York City finally opened.
Mhm.
I like to think that I helped shine a light on the pathway to getting open here.
Sure.
I'm agent number one in Manhattan, and I look forward to really big things coming forward.
So tell us a little bit about your attraction strategy. You have 1,100 agents, which you have attracted since 2018,
Mhm.
right? And tell us a little bit about what strategies you use or some of the things that you do to attract these agents to you.
Sure. So the first year and a half that we were here, we couldn't bring anyone in that we know in New York City, right? Because we weren't open. So what we did was we held lunch and learns surrounding the city and the suburbs, essentially talking to agents that we had never met before, just cold calling and inviting them to the events that we would be holding. I did know a significant number of people at Keller because of being in the referral groups that permeate Facebook. So obviously they got invites. Once we came over to New York, then I started to grow my team. We came over here, it was just two of us. And today we had been over 20, but now we're just under. And my intention is to grow the team to be 50. I'd like to have 10 agents in each of the 5 boroughs of New York City. There's a lot of hurdles in New York. It's very different than anywhere else, where Manhattan is a vertical city as opposed to a city or a town being spread out.
Mhm.
There are things that make KV Core and even other platforms like Sierra not as valuable as they are everywhere else. So for instance, New York has so many searchable fields that are relevant to apartments in New York City that don't show up in KV Core. Is there an elevator in the building? Is there a doorman? Is there a gym in the building? A washer dryer in the unit? All of those things are really just important in cities. They don't exist in KV Core, and KV Core is not going to make these accommodations just for a small group of agents in one city as opposed to the whole country. The second thing is that Manhattan does not have an MLS. We have something that operates as an MLS, but it's not a true MLS. And because of that, the brokerages have the power, and 13 of them don't subscribe to IDX. So very few searchers for apartments in Manhattan go to individual agents' IDX sites. They go to a place called Street Easy, which eventually was bought by Zillow, and they're essentially Zillow in New York. Even Zillow can't compete in New York City. So Street Easy is the place where people go because their system is set up for vertical city for Manhattan apartments.
Okay.
So it's sort of like a multi faceted jigsaw puzzle. Most of the country, you've got a county and a bunch of cities inside that county or towns. In New York City, that's one city, you've got 5 counties existing inside of the one city, which makes the IDX component, even searching for an apartment or a house in one of the outer boroughs, it's much more difficult getting the proper search set up.
So is that what led to the attraction of the 1,100 agents, is that you had things in place that maybe they didn't have access to? Tell us a little bit how you were able to then, after that first year and a half, attract these agents to you.
So, everybody, in my opinion, that has grown large rev share, they've got lucky somewhere along the line. Someone came into their sphere or their organization. They didn't expect to be this superstar performer, or a superstar came in without them realizing or unbeknownst to them that they were coming. So I've recruited about 55 agents myself, just about one per month. I'm not a superstar recruiter. I'm not a superstar agent. I run a nice shop, but that's it. One agent per month is, would I love that to be 2? Yeah, but it's harder than most people think. But having people that came before me who provide a lot of insight into how to go about doing this has been really, really helpful. I have a tremendous amount of gratitude for that, but I have just as much gratitude for the people that came in underneath me, even the ones that I didn't recruit myself, because they've grown my business. And I've gotten lucky. I've got one guy who came in and brought a tremendous amount of people in. It was a team effort getting him in. I think 5 of us in the upline all spoke to him at various points of the courting of him, and he was looking out for his best interests. He was one of the first to say, I'm going to go where my business is going to be treated best. Prior to that, it had been not whoever was the first person to speak to them, but there was less people saying, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? What can you do for me? And now that's pretty commonplace.
The interesting thing is, Randy, and I think that you're right, we've all experienced this. I know I have in my career as well, is that no one succeeds alone. They truly don't. I mean, no one succeeds alone. Usually our success, we can look back on it and see the 1 or 2 game changers that came along beside us, whether by luck or whether by intention, of people that came alongside of us that helped really to explode our business, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think the lesson in what you just said is whether it was by accident or whether it's purposeful, who do we know? So ask yourself this question right now: who do I know that is an influencer, that is someone who loves to help others and show them a way, that is someone that can come alongside of me and we can work together to really blow this thing up, and it's a win-win for both of us? And Randy, I think that's what you're saying about this one gentleman, right?
Absolutely. But there's more to it too. I mean, there's an evolution of a person as a recruiter, right? And if you work on your skill set, because this is your craft, you're not as good today as you will be tomorrow if you work on it. You will get better and better and better. Like when I first came, I was puking EXP all over the place, right? I mean, I was nervous, I was fearful, I was embarrassed when I didn't get somebody that I thought I should get. And but over time, I've come to realize this is not about selling EXP. It's about building a relationship with the person, finding out what their needs are, and then taking the part of EXP that really fits with filling that hole in their business and showing them that the benefits of being here through that. That's what, but you've got to know them first. You've got to understand who they are and what their business looks like and where the problems lie and how it can be fixed.
So Randy, what advice about your process would you give to everyone here? So let's go back to say 2020, 2021. And you're saying, hey, you know, I've only personally recruited about 50 people. Now I'm recruiting about 1 a month. This is what I do. Give us and those listening some strategies of what you do specifically to get into relationship with the folks that you have then brought over to EXP.
So I do make cold calls,
You
right?
do.
But my conversation with them is, would you be open-minded enough to take a look at a business model that is changing the industry? That's basic. I can go on a little bit more and have a couple of more, questions or statements to try and get them on the phone call. But if they're not interested, that's okay. Would you mind if I check back with you? Moving your business from one place to another, it's a very personal thing. If the time is not right for you, you don't want to talk to anyone about it, right?
Mhm.
Not everyone is open-minded.
Mhm.
Most people don't want to admit to not being open-minded, but the truth of the matter is that many people are not. And that's okay, because you could be not open-minded today, but be much more open-minded a month from now when you had a disagreement with your broker, right?
Would you
So,
mind if I put you on the spot and role play that with me?
sure.
Okay, I'm gonna be kind of interested, right? I'm gonna try to run from you and then you can rope me in. I'd love for these guys to hear how you do this, right? What your initial script is.
Sure. Okay. Hi, Becky. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing terrific, Becky. Look, I've admired your business from afar for a while. I see you do a terrific business, especially on the rental side. And I know that you do a lot of transactions. And I just wanted to check in to see if you'd be open-minded enough to take a look at a model that really might be life-changing for you, because we really appreciate people who do a lot of business. And the compensation here is not just on a better split. So if you'd have a little time, I'd love to jump on a Zoom call with you and maybe take a deeper look at what this might mean for your business.
You know, Randy, I really respect you. I know you've done a lot of things in the marketplace. I'm not really looking to make a move right now.
I understand that. You know, most people are happy where they are, and we like happy people. But usually I find that when somebody's happy, it's because they've put their head down and they've really worked hard at building and grinding it out. And they often don't realize what is being offered right outside their own door.
Hmm,
Only take a half an hour to really take a look at what this might mean for you.
love it. Okay, great. You got it. I'll do it. So that's awesome, Randy. So it's not pushy at all. You know what I loved is that you said, hey, I really admire your business and I've admired it from afar for a while.
Well, you know, Dave Gagnon taught something called CATS, which is complement, attract, take away, and schedule, right? So start the conversation off with complimenting in some way, and then pull some attraction out there, and then give them, you know, a little of, you probably wouldn't be interested in this, but that's the takeaway. And then often you can get the schedule right after that.
Oh, I love it. I don't know if you can get that in the chat box, Haley, but cats.
If you go into YouTube and Google Gagnon
Got it.
CATS and then CATS, you'll find it. It's in there.
Gagnon cats, compliment, attract, take away, excuse me, and schedule.
Yeah.
So we do have a question here from one of the business leaders on the call. In terms of leads that you provide, where are they sourced from? Question mark. It's like a multifaceted question. And then what about the leads they get from that, say, open house? Okay, I see what she's saying. So where are they sourced from, the leads you provide? And then how do you handle a lead that is from an open house? Is that their lead?
Yeah.
Team lead, right? Marissa, is that what you're saying?
So we get our leads from a multitude of places. Street Easy is one, but Sierra has a lead generation platform, just like KV Core is. So we use a system called GGMS that not only works on bringing in new leads, but it nurtures the 10 to 15,000 leads that we have in our system. Hopefully, we're bringing them back to life over time.
Mhm.
And the second part of the question was,
The second part of the question is when
Oh,
they get
an
a
open
lead
house.
from an open house, is that their lead or is that a team lead?
if it's your listing, it's your lead.
Yep, your listing, your lead. Okay. So, and then it
Okay.
seems like a
My
bulk of
listing.
the income. Oh, you guys can put yourself on mute. Bulk of the income, it sounds like she says a bulk of the income is coming from revenue share, and that's the main goal question mark.
Well, so listen, 25% of an agent's deals in New York City, where the average price points are pretty high, that's not a bad revenue stream. I don't, but and I probably have, I guess maybe 60% of the agents on my team are on a 25% split and 70% are on that 90-10 split.
Okay. All
Right.
right. You ran
But the
those-
real benefits to me is most definitely, especially longer term, is my revenue share trade. If my team ran at break even, and I knew that it was going to run at break even, I'd love to make money on it. But if it ran at break even, but it grew to the 50 agents that I'd like it to, the benefits to me, I'd be the happiest man in America.
I love that. I love it. Marissa, did you have a question?
Yeah, and that's why I kind of thank you so much for answering all that. I appreciate it. I guess that's why I kind of asked a few questions in one, because I wanted to figure out what from the agents that you've attracted, what is the attraction to the standard team versus that 90-10 team, your expanded team.
And
That's
just so you know, Marissa's not with with EXP yet. She's on this call because she wanted to hear you. So she
Okay.
is potentially considering.
So it's completely up to them, right? If they believe that they're going to get a lot of their business comes from their own efforts, then I think they're crazy not to do a 90-10, especially if they've got a chance at becoming an icon, right? But if they're going to be relying on me and I'm going to be giving them leads that they're going to be paying 50-50 on, and they're not so sure how much business they're going to do, then taking that 25% haircut on the deals that they do bring to the table, which is probably only going to be a couple, is going to result in them getting a half cap instead of a full cap.
Okay. So really, it's just sitting down and doing a needs analysis with anybody that you bring on your team and seeing what's going to work best for them.
Yep.
Okay.
And maybe as their business grows, they move from one to the next, from the
They can-
standard team.
Change it anytime they want.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions from you guys? Randy's here for you to answer any questions you might have about how he has grown to 1,100 agents in basically just 2.5 years.
Mm,
That's huge, right?
4.5 years.
4 years, 4.5 years. Okay. Yeah. 4.5 years. Any other questions?
Randy, do you have an office space in New York?
Nope.
No office space.
Regis, which everyone has access to, there's more offices there's 38 Regis offices in Manhattan. So when I'm walking around the city, I'm literally a couple of blocks from a Regis space anytime I want. But in spite of that, I've only been in a Regis office about 3 times in the last 4.5 years. There's just no need.
Mhm.
It's really something that is a want more than a need for 98% of the agents.
Awesome. Thank you.
Randy, next question I have is how many cold calls do you make a day?
Not as many as I would like.
I love the
I
truth.
mean, there's some days when I make 25 or 30 of them. There's some days when I get 1 or 2, and there's days when I don't get any in.
Mhm. When you were first starting this and you wanted to really hit your revenue share hard and really get this going, how many were you making a day, you think?
I was making 50 calls a day.
50 dials a day, 50.
Yep.
So when you were first starting out, 50 calls a day, and how many appointments was your goal for the week?
Well, I wish that I had been as disciplined numerically as you seem to think that I might have been, but I wasn't. But I probably was making 15 contacts per day out of the 50 calls.
I love it. So 50 calls a day, 15 contacts a day, and that resulted in basically getting into relationship with many people, one of which has made a big impact on your business, and now you're at 1,100 agents.
Well, not just one. There's a couple of people that have,
Yeah.
but one definitively really played a big role in another big one coming.
Got it.
Down further. So I've got a significant person on level 2 and level 4 also.
Got it. That's great. Wonderful. Okay, great. Well, thank you. If you don't have any other questions? Okay, so Randy,
That's it.
how? Yeah, well, no, I think yours, George.
Oh, no, I was just going to say thank you. I thought we were signing off. I was going to say
We
thank you,
are.
Becky. Thank you, Randy. But
You're welcome,
yeah, I'm
George.
good. I really, just a comment, I really like your model because I have an in-house team. You know, I have a team that I do team split for. They're on the half cap, but they can't icon. I really appreciate your models, your different structures you shared, Randy. This is valuable stuff, man. So yeah, thank you very much for that.
Very welcome. Very welcome.
Yeah, and I will tell you this, guys, I've actually spent a tremendous amount of time at Keller Williams as a team leader recruiting. And I mean, recruiting big numbers, 10, 15, we'd have to have 10, 15, sometimes 20 agents in a month. And here's the thing that I will tell you is that it is so much easier to put together a great attraction program for a broker or a team owner than individual. This is my experience. This is Becky talking, because here's the reality. The reality is we're moving into a changing market. And Randy, you can probably see this. We're moving into a changing market, and you have brokers and team owners who are going to start losing money or not making as much money as they have. Their expenses are high. There is a debt that they have to pay every month, whether they have commission dollars coming back in or not. And what's getting ready to happen is that those team leaders and those brokers are getting ready to have to go back into doing the transactions. And so right now, especially over the next 12 months, more than ever, these owners of brokerages and teams are going to be attracted to EXP because of a business model that Randy has. For example, Randy has this business model of, hey, you can either join my team, right, Randy? You can join my team, get the benefits of everything. You'll be on a full cap. And, it's a 10% split on your stuff, a 50% split on my stuff, or you can actually join my team for a reduced cap and pay a 25% referral. This is going to be extremely attractive because this model is not really something that's allowed in other companies. Right? So they come into EXP, they can run their own business and have their and be an entrepreneur in that space, but at the same time, they can actually mix up their rules a little bit, and they have revenue share to build passive income and I don't say passive income, generational wealth, because it's not passive. You do have to work for it down the road, right, Randy? I mean, this is something that's actually pretty huge, especially in the next 12 months. The opportunity that's actually going to be available for those of us that are already in XP. I mean, this is why I joined EXP, for exactly what you're talking about right now, is that there is a long-term solution for the team and broker problem through this company.
There's something else too. It used to, I think it went back to before the year 2000, the real estate agent career, it was almost like an employee model. You went to work at a company, you probably said that I work for Corcoran, or I work for Remax, or I work for Keller, and you were treated like an employee pretty much. And then we came to realize that we were independent contractors and we had our businesses at real estate. So I work at Keller, or I work at Remax, or I work at Corcoran. But today, I really think that it's different. If you don't realize that you're an independent business owner, because you drive most of your business, you're not doing desk duty where people are walking into your offices anymore. It's a different kind of world. You're creating your own business. And really, the broker is a vendor of transactional services for you. you're required to keep your license out of broker, but that business has become commoditized to a large degree. And the companies that are taking 40 and 50% splits and even 30% splits, it's so outsized that it's almost criminal.
Right.
So if you were just going to go buy a slice of pizza and one was $10 and the other was $2.50 or $3, and they both were equal quality, where would you go? Well, why would you do differently with your business? Because that's what you're doing when you're at one of these high split model companies. And I agree 100% with what you had said. As revenues dry up, these companies that have a fixed side, expense side of the ledger, they're going to have to do two things. They're either going to have to cut back on services that they're providing for the agents, or they're going to be going to some of those agents and asking them to cut their splits. And when they do, both of those types of agents are going to be looking elsewhere for where to hang their license. And if you can get that conversation across to them, get that understanding there that you run your own business. This isn't about you love your broker. You know, if, like you said earlier, if your broker got offered a job that he could make another $250,000 by being at a different brokerage, what would you tell him to do if he came to you and said, you know, we've had a great relationship, but I've been offered this tremendous opportunity. Would you tell him to stay because of your relationship? You probably would say, no, go take care of your family.
That's
So
right.
why isn't he telling you the same thing when you say you've got a better opportunity?
100%. Randy, we have one question Sarah put in the box. So Sarah asked, how do you offer a standard and a self-organized team? And Sarah, I think the question really you're digging at, how do you do both under one? Is that what it is? Yes. Yes. Share her thumbs up. So she's like, so Sarah, they're wondering, how do you do both of those under one, you know, within?
I just have I have a different team agreement for every agent,
Okay.
right? So the agents that are on the self-directed team split, EXP has a copy of my team agreement, but they don't have to, they have to sign a document called I can't remember the title of it, but essentially it says that they recognize and they are telling EXP that they understand that even though they're on my team, they will not be getting a half cap. It's a full cap election document is what it's called.
Okay.
Right. So if you sign a full cap election document, you can be on a team and not have that half cap and 25% split requirement.
So basically, everyone on your team gets all the same services, regardless if they're on the self-directed, self-organized, or whether or not they are on a half cap with a 25% on every deal. They get
Yep.
the same services. It's just, what have they elected? Have they elected to pay a full cap? And then they pay a 10% split on anything they bring, because that's basically paying for some of the services that you offer, right?
Mhm.
And then a 50-50 on anything you give them, but they can get out of the 10% by having 10 qualifying FLQs, right?
Correct.
Now, but it's basically under the same umbrella. You're doing the same thing for both. It's just one says, I can probably survive on I can probably grow my business on my own leads. I don't really need yours, but if I get yours, I'll pay you 50%.
Yeah.
Where the other one is saying, I need you on every deal. I'm going to take the half cap and I'm going to pay you the 25%.
Yep. Yeah, it's a nail right on the head.
Okay. Does that make sense, Sarah? Yeah. Okay. Randy,
You
how
sure?
I'm sorry.
I just said, are you sure? I'm
Yeah.
happy to go into just to stay on the topic and make sure that you get a full understanding of it.
Yeah. If you want to go deeper, you can go deeper in that. Please do. Nope. I think she's good.
Okay.
I had a question. I just threw it in the chat, but do you have like a list of documents or services that you offer your team, whether it be like the standard team or the self-directed? I know you had mentioned the VA that you recently made a switch with. Is there like an in-house transaction coordinator or anything like that?
So I thought about doing that, creating a list for basically marketing purposes, right? I can send it, but I haven't done that. But it really is, you get to use a higher level of technology. my technology suite. You get the use of my VA for social media marketing, and my VA also doubles as my transaction coordinator. So all deals go through to team admin, Sky Slope account, and she handles all the paperwork for all of the agents on the team.
Just from a back end standpoint, she doesn't like talk to the clients or anything like that.
No client interaction at all. Only agent interaction.
Thank you.
Great question. Any other
You're welcome.
questions for Randy? Randy, how can this group find you? Let's say they want to ask you a question, but maybe they don't want to ask it on this call. How can they find you?
Workplace chat.
Say one more time.
Workplace chat.
Workplace chat's the best place to find Randy. He'll find you in there as well, and you guys can have a conversation. Randy, thank you so much for being on the call.
You're
This is
very welcome.
amazing information, especially when it comes to really understanding, guys, the conversation to have with someone who is currently running their own business as a broker or as a team. I know, Randy, that whenever Cari was working on attracting me as someone who has owned a team in the past, as the red book that we just talked about had it outlined. It was very interesting when she started telling me about how you run your business. And I believe there is so much opportunity to go out and really offer a solution to brokers and team owners with what Randy's created. So if you are looking to get into conversation with high-level brokers or team owners, I would recommend that you talk to Randy, because I think that is the key to really growing your downline pretty quickly. But at the same time, you're also offering a solution to someone who could find themselves potentially out of business, or they could find themselves back on the floor doing their own transactions going forward in the future. But you have a solution for them. And Randy just offered that up. And I just appreciate so much you coming on. And I'm so grateful that you decided to open up New York. We appreciate you.
Thanks very much. I appreciate that. I appreciate the compliments. It's been great talking with you guys. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach me on Workplace Chat. I'll get back to you as quickly as I can.
Thank you so much, Randy. Thanks, guys, for being here. It's good to talk to you, Cari.
Thank
We'll be back
you.
next week. Bye.
Happy
Thank you. Thank
Thanksgiving,
you so
everyone.
much.
Happy
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Bye.